The mining colony of Kepler 442b had seen better days. What started as a promising expedition to extract rare minerals had turned into a struggle for survival after the corporate funding dried up. The colonists were left stranded on a hostile alien world, making do with whatever resources they could scrape together. 8-year-old Maya Chen had never known Earth. Born on the colony ship during the long journey, she had grown up among the prefabricated domes and recycled air of humanity's most distant outpost. While other children her age might have been attending school or playing in parks, Maya spent her days helping her mother, Dr. Sarah Chen, catalog the strange flora and fauna of this alien world. The planet was beautiful in its own terrifying way. Crystalline formations jutted from purple soil, and bioluminescent plants created an ethereal glow during the long nights. But beauty came with danger. The local wildlife ranged from mildly curious to aggressively territorial, and the colonists had learned to respect the boundaries of the native species. Maya had always been different from the other colony children. Where they saw monsters in the alien creatures, she saw wonder. Where they heard threatening roars, she heard communication. Her mother often worried about her daughter's fearless curiosity, but Maya's gift for understanding non-human behavior had proven useful more than once. On this particular morning, Maya wandered beyond the colony's outer perimeter while chasing a small, butterfly-like creature with wings that shifted colors like oil on water. The creature led her deeper into the crystalline forest than she had ever ventured before. The familiar hum of the colony's generators faded until only the alien sounds of this world remained. That's when she heard it. A sound that was part howl, part whimper, echoing through the crystal formations. It was a sound of pain so raw and desperate that it made Maya's chest tighten with empathy. Against every safety protocol she had been taught, she followed the sound deeper into the forest. The creature she found defied everything the colonists thought they knew about the planet's apex predators. The Fenriri, as the xenobiologists had named them, were massive wolf-like beings that stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder. Their fur was a deep midnight blue that seemed to absorb light, and their eyes glowed with an inner fire that spoke of fierce intelligence. They hunted in packs and had been responsible for several colonist deaths in the early days of settlement. But the Fenriri before Maya was alone, and clearly in agony. It lay on its side among the crystals, massive flanks heaving with labored breathing. What struck Maya most wasn't its size, or the obvious power in its muscled frame. It was the very human-like expression of pain and frustration in its burning amber eyes. As she crept closer, Maya could see the source of the creature's distress. A thorny vine from one of the planet's carnivorous plants had somehow become lodged deep in the beast's left nostril. The thorn was easily as long as Maya's forearm, covered in barbed protrusions that would make removal incredibly painful. The creature had clearly tried to dislodge it, as evidenced by the scratches around its muzzle and the scattered crystal fragments where it had rubbed its snout against the formations. Maya knew she should run. Every instinct her mother had tried to instill in her screamed that she was in mortal danger. This was a predator capable of crushing her with a single bite. But as she watched the magnificent creature struggle, something deeper than fear took hold. Compassion. The Fenriri noticed her approach and lifted its massive head, lips pulling back to reveal teeth like obsidian daggers. But instead of the aggressive snarl Maya expected, the creature made a sound almost like a question. Its ears, surprisingly expressive despite their alien shape, swiveled toward her with what seemed like curiosity rather than threat. Maya had grown up surrounded by her mother's research on animal behavior. She had learned to read body language across species, to recognize the difference between aggression and fear, between dominance and submission. What she saw in the Fenriri's posture wasn't the coiled tension of a predator about to strike. It was the desperate stillness of a creature, in too much pain to care about anything else. Slowly, carefully, Maya approached with her hands visible and her movements deliberate. She spoke in soft, soothing tones, the same way she had seen her mother calm frightened animals. The words didn't matter. The creature wouldn't understand human language, but tone was universal. The Fenriri watched her with those burning eyes, its breathing shallow and rapid. When Maya was close enough to touch its snout, she stopped and extended her small hand palm up, letting the creature catch her scent. The beast's nose, despite its current predicament, twitched as it analyzed this strange, small being who approached without fear. Up close, Maya could see just how deeply the thorn was embedded. The carnivorous vine had evolved its thorns to grip prey and slowly drag them toward the plant's digestive chamber. The barbs were angled in such a way that any attempt to pull straight out would cause enormous damage. But Maya had watched her mother remove similar thorns from smaller creatures, and she understood the technique required. The real challenge wasn't the removal. It was getting the Fenriri to trust her enough to let her try. Maya began with gentle touches around the creature's muzzle, carefully avoiding the injured area. The Fenriri's fur was softer than she had expected, with an almost electrical quality that made her fingertips tingle. The creature initially flinched at her touch, but as she continued her gentle ministrations, she felt some of the tension leave its massive frame. Communication was key. Maya began to hum, a simple, repetitive melody her mother had sung to her as a baby. The sound seemed to have a calming effect, and the Fenriri's breathing began to slow and deepen. When she felt confident enough, Maya gently placed her hands on either side of the creature's snout, feeling the vibrations of its breathing through her palms. The thorn would have to come out in sections. Maya could see that the main shaft was hollow, an adaptation that allowed the vine to inject digestive enzymes into its prey. If she could break off the smaller barbs first, she might be able to slide the main shaft out without causing too much additional damage. Working with the careful precision of someone far older than her 8 years, Maya began the delicate process of removal. Each small manipulation caused the Fenriri to tense, but the creature never pulled away or showed aggression. Instead, it seemed to understand that this small human was trying to help. The first barb came free with a soft pop, followed by a small amount of biological fluid. The Fenriri's eyes closed in what looked like relief, and Maya felt a surge of confidence. One down, several to go. As she worked, Maya became aware that they were no longer alone. The crystalline forest had grown quiet around them, and she could sense other presences watching from the shadows between the formations. More Fenriri had arrived, drawn perhaps by their packmates' distress. Maya forced herself not to look up, not to acknowledge the growing audience. Any sign of fear or sudden movement could trigger their protective instincts. The second and third barbs proved more stubborn, but Maya's small fingers were able to work them loose where larger hands might have caused more damage. With each successful removal, the Fenriri's breathing grew easier, and she could sense its growing trust in her abilities. Finally, only the main shaft remained. This would be the most dangerous part. One wrong move could drive the thorn deeper, or cause it to break off inside the creature's nasal passage. Maya took a deep breath and placed her hands in the optimal position. The Fenriri, sensing the critical moment, went completely still. With one smooth, confident motion, Maya grasped the shaft near its base and pulled it free. The thorn came out cleanly, followed by a rush of blood and mucus. The Fenriri's eyes snapped open, and for a moment, Maya feared she had made a terrible mistake. But instead of pain or anger, what she saw in those amber depths was something that would change her life forever. Gratitude. Pure, unmistakable gratitude from an intelligence as vast and complex as any she had ever encountered. The great beast slowly raised its head, then gently nuzzled Maya's small form with its massive snout. The gesture was so tender, so careful, that it brought tears to her eyes. Around them, the other Fenriri began to emerge from the shadows, their own eyes reflecting the same mix of curiosity and respect. Maya had done more than remove a thorn. She had bridged a gap between species that no one had thought possible. As she looked into the eyes of the creature she had helped, she knew that this moment would ripple outward in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The relationship between humanity and the Fenriri would never be the same. The walk back to the colony became the most extraordinary journey of Maya's young life. The Fenriri she had helped, who she had begun thinking of as Shadowmane due to the magnificent dark fur around its neck, walked beside her with protective grace. Behind them, a pack of 6 other Fenriri followed at a respectful distance, their massive forms moving through the crystal forest like living shadows. Maya should have been terrified. Instead, she felt safer than she ever had outside the colony walls. When Shadowmane occasionally lowered its great head to nuzzle her shoulder or gently guide her around particularly treacherous terrain, she understood that she was under the protection of one of this world's most formidable predators. The other Fenriri seemed to communicate through a complex system of growls, whimpers, and body language that Maya found herself beginning to understand intuitively. When a smaller member of the pack accidentally stepped too close to her, Shadowmane's ears flattened slightly, and the other creature immediately gave her more space. She was witnessing the establishment of a new social order, one that included a human child as a protected member. As they approached the colony's outer perimeter, Maya realized she faced a significant problem. The automated defense systems would identify the approaching Fenriri as threats and open fire. She needed to warn the colonists, but she also needed to ensure that her new friends wouldn't be harmed by human misunderstanding and fear. Shadowmane seemed to sense her distress. The great beast stopped and lowered itself to the ground, positioning its body in a way that clearly indicated Maya should climb onto its back. The other pack members formed a protective circle around them, their intelligent eyes scanning the horizon for potential threats. From her elevated position on Shadowmane's back, Maya could see the colony's sensor towers beginning to track their approach. She knew they had perhaps minutes before the automated systems would classify the Fenriri as hostile and initiate defensive protocols. Urging Shadowmane forward, she guided the pack toward the main gate while activating her emergency communicator. "Mom, this is Maya," she said, trying to keep the excitement and nervousness out of her voice. "I'm approaching the main gate with some new friends. Please tell security not to shoot." The response was immediate and predictably panicked. "Maya Elizabeth Chen. Where have you been? And what do you mean by friends? Your signal shows you're with multiple large life forms. I helped a hurt Fenriri, and now they want to be friends. Please, Mom, you have to trust me. Tell everyone not to shoot. They're not dangerous if we don't threaten them." The communication channel exploded with overlapping voices as her mother alerted colony security and the other researchers. Maya could hear the debate raging in the background. Some voices calling for immediate defensive action, others urging caution. Through it all, her mother's voice remained steady, advocating for her daughter's safety while trying to understand this unprecedented situation. As they crested the final hill before the colony, Maya saw the main gate standing open, with a crowd of colonists gathered behind the safety barriers. Her mother stood at the front of the group, her face a mixture of relief, terror, and scientific fascination. Beside her, Colony Administrator Harrison looked ready to call for an immediate evacuation. The Fenriri pack stopped just outside the gate's sensor range, clearly aware of the defensive systems. Shadowmane made a complex sound that seemed to communicate with the other pack members, and they arranged themselves in what Maya recognized as a non-threatening formation. Heads lowered, ears forward in a gesture of curiosity rather than aggression. Maya slipped down from Shadowmane's back and walked forward to meet the crowd of humans. The contrast was stark. The massive alien predators behind her, patient and still, and the nervous cluster of humans ahead, hands hovering near weapons, and ready to flee at the first sign of trouble. "They're peaceful," Maya announced, her young voice carrying clearly in the crisp alien air. "Shadowmane was hurt, and I helped him. Now they want to be friends with us." Dr. Chen stepped forward slowly, her scientific training warring with her maternal instincts. "Maya, honey, these are apex predators. They've killed colonists before. How can you be sure they're safe?" Maya turned to look at Shadowmane, who had approached the gate's edge but remained carefully outside the sensor perimeter. The great beast met her gaze with those intelligent amber eyes, and she saw understanding there, an acknowledgement of the delicate situation they found themselves in. "Because they're smart, Mom. Really smart. Shadowmane knows that humans are afraid, and he doesn't want to scare anyone. But he also wants to thank me for helping him. Watch." Maya walked back to Shadowmane and placed her small hand on the creature's snout. She spoke to him in the same soft, soothing tones she had used in the forest. And to everyone's amazement, the Fenriri responded with gentle rumbles and careful movements that clearly indicated communication. Dr. Chen approached slowly, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. As the colony's xenobiologist, she had studied the Fenriri from a distance for months, but this was the first opportunity to observe them in a peaceful context. "The pack structure is more complex than we thought," she murmured, pulling out her recording device. "Look at how they defer to the injured one. That's not typical predator behavior." They're showing respect for his connection to Maya. Other researchers began to emerge from behind the barriers, drawn by the unprecedented opportunity to observe Fenriri behavior up close. The creatures showed no aggression, but they remained alert, clearly aware of every human movement, while keeping their attention focused on Maya and Shadowmane. Administrator Harrison remained skeptical. "This is highly irregular. We can't just allow alien predators into the colony. What if they turn aggressive? What if this is some kind of hunting strategy we don't understand?" Shadowmane seemed to understand the tension in the human voices. The great beast took several deliberate steps backward, encouraging the pack to give the humans more space. Then, in a gesture that stunned everyone present, Shadowmane lowered his massive head to the ground in what was unmistakably a bow. The other pack members immediately followed suit, creating a scene that none of the colonists had ever imagined possible. 7 apex predators, showing formal respect to a group of humans. Maya stepped forward to address the crowd. "They understand that we're scared, and they want to show that they won't hurt us. Shadowmane is trying to say thank you, and he wants us to know that his pack will protect the colony now." Dr. Chen's mind raced with the implications. "Maya, are you saying they want to establish some kind of alliance? A mutual protection agreement?" "I think so. They know there are other dangerous things on this planet that we haven't met yet, things that even they're afraid of. But together, we'd be safer." The debate that followed would be remembered as one of the most important moments in human-alien relations. Some colonists argued for caution, pointing out the obvious risks of trusting creatures that had previously been classified as hostile. Others, led by Dr. Chen and the research team, recognized the unprecedented opportunity to establish peaceful contact with an intelligent alien species. Administrator Harrison's concerns were practical. Even if we accept that they're peaceful now, how do we establish protocols? How do we prevent misunderstandings that could lead to violence? Maya had been thinking about this problem during the walk back to the colony. "We start small. Shadowmane, and maybe one other, can come into the outer compound during the day. They learn our routines, we learn theirs. We build trust slowly." The wisdom in her words surprised the adults. This 8-year-old child was proposing a diplomatic solution with the kind of thoughtful consideration that career negotiators might struggle to achieve. Over the next several hours, the colonists worked out the details of humanity's first formal agreement with an alien species. Maya served as translator, somehow understanding the complex vocalizations and body language of the Fenriri well enough to convey their intentions to the human negotiators. The terms were simple but revolutionary. The Fenriri pack would provide protection for the colony in exchange for medical assistance when needed, and access to certain areas of the human compound. Both species would respect each other's territories and work together to face the greater dangers that lurked in the unexplored regions of the planet. As the alien suns began to set, painting the crystalline landscape in shades of gold and purple, Maya stood between two worlds. On one side, the human colony with its domed structures and humming machinery. On the other, the Fenriri pack, with their wild grace and ancient wisdom. Shadowmane approached her one final time that day, his massive head lowering so that she could reach up and touch the spot where the thorn had been. The skin had already begun to heal with remarkable speed, leaving only a small mark that would serve as a permanent reminder of the moment when two species chose cooperation over conflict. In the days that followed, the arrangement would prove more successful than anyone had dared to hope. The Fenriri's keen senses detected threats long before human technology could identify them, while human medical knowledge helped treat injuries and illnesses that had previously meant death for members of the pack. But it all began with a small human child who saw past the fearsome exterior to the intelligent being beneath, who chose compassion over caution, and who proved that sometimes the greatest bridges between worlds are built by the smallest hands. 3 months after the historic first contact, The Kepler 442b colony had transformed into something unprecedented in human exploration history. What began as a struggling mining outpost had evolved into the galaxy's first successful human-alien cooperative settlement. The changes were visible everywhere, from the modified outer compound where Fenriri pack members came and went freely to the revolutionary agricultural projects that combined human technology with alien knowledge of the planet's ecosystem. Maya had become something unique in human history, a genuine interspecies diplomat. Her daily routines now included language lessons with Shadowmane, where she learned the complex vocal patterns and body language that served as Fenriri communication, while teaching her alien friend the basics of human speech and writing. The progress was remarkable, demonstrating an intelligence in the Fenriri that even the most optimistic xenobiologists had underestimated. The breakthrough came when Shadowmane began producing sounds that approximated human words. His first clear utterance of Maya's name, rendered in a deep, rumbling voice that carried undertones impossible for human vocal cords to produce, brought tears to every colonist who witnessed it. The moment was broadcast to Earth, where it would be studied for decades, as proof that true interspecies communication was possible. But the real test of the alliance came when the planet revealed its deeper secrets. Maya was working in the botanical laboratory with her mother when the attack happened. The early warning came not from the colony's sophisticated sensor network, but from the Fenriri pack members stationed around the perimeter. Their urgent howls echoed across the compound, a sound that Maya had learned to interpret as a warning of extreme danger. Shadowmane burst into the laboratory complex, his massive frame filling the reinforced doorway. His amber eyes were wide with urgency, and he made the specific sounds that Maya had come to understand meant underground threat and many enemies. The great beast was clearly agitated, his usually controlled demeanor replaced by the focused intensity of a predator preparing for battle. The colony's seismic sensors confirmed what Shadowmane had detected through senses humans could barely comprehend. Something massive was moving through the underground crystal formations, something that was causing the Fenriri pack to exhibit levels of fear that Maya had never seen before. Dr. Chen quickly pulled up the geological surveys on her tablet, her face growing pale as she analyzed the data. "These readings are massive, Maya. Whatever's down there is bigger than anything we've cataloged on this planet. The displacement patterns suggest multiple entities, each one easily the size of a shuttlecraft." Administrator Harrison's voice crackled over the communication system. "All personnel to emergency stations. We have multiple large contacts approaching from the underground cavern systems. This is not a drill." Maya looked at Shadowmane, seeing the worry in his intelligent eyes. Through their developing communication system, she understood that the Fenriri had encountered these creatures before. The underground dwellers were something that even the apex predators of the surface feared. Ancient things that rarely emerged but were absolutely devastating when they did. The first creature broke through the ground at the colony's outer perimeter with explosive force. What emerged defied easy description. A writhing mass of crystalline appendages and bioluminescent organs that seemed to shift and flow like living liquid. It was easily 20 meters long, and seemed to move through the solid rock as easily as through air. The colonists' weapons had minimal effect on its crystalline hide, and it began advancing toward the main compound with terrifying purpose. But the Fenriri pack was ready. Maya watched in amazement as Shadowmane coordinated the other pack members in a complex battle strategy. They didn't attack the creature directly. Instead, they used their intimate knowledge of the planet's geology to predict where it would surface next and guide the colonists away from danger zones. Maya realized that this was why the alliance was so important. Humans brought medical knowledge, technology, and analytical skills. The Fenriri brought understanding of the planet's deeper mysteries and threats that human sensors couldn't detect. As more creatures emerged from the underground, Maya found herself in the colony's command center, serving as the primary translator between the human defenders and their Fenriri allies. The great beasts communicated the creature's weaknesses, specific frequency vibrations that could disrupt their crystalline structure, and the locations of underground chambers where the things could be trapped. Working together, humans and Fenriri developed tactics that neither species could have managed alone. The colonists' sonic equipment, originally designed for mining, proved effective at the frequencies Shadowmane indicated. Meanwhile, the Fenriri's knowledge of underground passages allowed them to predict and intercept the creatures before they could reach critical colony systems. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the colonists and Fenriri had not just survived. They had demonstrated something that would change the course of human expansion among the stars. Two species, working in perfect coordination, had overcome a threat that would have destroyed either one alone. In the aftermath, as both humans and Fenriri tended to their wounded, Maya sat with Shadowmane in the medical bay, where Dr. Chen was treating a gash on the great beast's flank. The injury wasn't serious, but it served as a reminder of the sacrifice the Fenriri had made to protect their human allies. "You saved us," Maya said softly, her hand resting on Shadowmane's uninjured side. "Your people could have left us to face those things alone. But you stayed." Shadowmane's response came in a mixture of his own language and carefully articulated human words. "Pack. Protects. Pack. Maya. Pack. Humans. Pack now." Dr. Chen looked up from her work, tears in her eyes. "Maya, do you realize what he's saying? He's telling us that we're not just allies. We're family. The Fenriri consider us part of their pack structure." The implications were staggering. Pack membership among Fenriri was sacred, involving obligations and bonds that lasted for life. By accepting humans into their pack, the Fenriri were offering something more profound than a military alliance. They were offering kinship. Over the following weeks, as both communities recovered from the attack, the true depth of the human-Fenriri bond became clear. The pack structure extended beyond just protection and cooperation. Fenriri began sharing knowledge about the planet's resources that humans had never discovered, including crystalline formations that could revolutionize human technology. In return, human medical advances helped extend Fenriri lifespans and treat genetic conditions that had plagued their species for generations. Maya found herself at the center of a cultural exchange that anthropologists would study for centuries. She learned that Fenriri society was built around complex philosophical concepts about harmony between intelligence and nature. They saw humans not as invaders or competitors, but as a missing piece of a cosmic puzzle. Beings who could manipulate matter and energy in ways that complemented their own intuitive understanding of natural systems. The colony began to change in ways that reflected this new partnership. Architecture incorporated both human engineering principles and Fenriri understanding of how structures should integrate with the planet's natural energy flows. Agricultural projects used Fenriri knowledge of soil nutrition cycles, combined with human genetic modification techniques, to produce food sources that both species could share. Most remarkably, children began to be born and raised in truly integrated communities. Human children learned alongside young Fenriri, developing communication skills that their parents could barely comprehend. Maya watched toddlers playing games with Fenriri cubs, both species learning from each other in ways that suggested the future would hold possibilities no one had imagined. The success of the Kepler 442b colony sent shockwaves through human space. Other exploration missions began requesting Fenriri advisors for planetary surveys. The concept of truly cooperative colonization, where humans sought to join existing ecosystems rather than replace them, became a new model for expansion. As Maya grew older, she became the first official human Fenriri cultural exchange officer, a position created specifically to formalize her unique role. By her 10th birthday, she was fluent in 3 Fenriri dialects and had helped establish communication protocols that would be used for first contact situations throughout human space. But perhaps the most significant change was in how humans saw themselves in the universe. The old model of human expansion had assumed that intelligence was rare and that Earth-originated life would dominate wherever it spread. The Fenriri alliance proved that cooperation with alien intelligence could achieve things that human technology alone never could. Standing in the observatory dome on the anniversary of first contact, Maya watched the binary sunset paint the crystalline landscape in brilliant colors. Shadowmane stood beside her, now showing gray in his magnificent fur but still as sharp and intelligent as ever. Around them, human and Fenriri engineers worked together on projects that would have been impossible for either species alone. A small human child and her act of simple compassion had changed the course of galactic civilization. The removal of a thorn from an alien predator's nostril had grown into a partnership that demonstrated humanity's greatest strength. Not its weapons or technology, but its capacity for empathy and cooperation. The colony that had started as humanity's most distant outpost had become something far more important. Proof that the universe held room for many forms of intelligence, and that the future belonged to those wise enough to choose cooperation over conquest. Maya had shown that sometimes the smallest gestures of kindness could build bridges across the vast spaces between stars, creating bonds that would endure for generations. In the end, the story of Maya and Shadowmane became more than just a tale of first contact. It became the foundation myth for a new era of human expansion, one built not on domination, but on the revolutionary idea that the universe was better when different forms of intelligence worked together rather than against each other.